Descending from Heaven, a Dvar Torah for Parashat Yitro. Somehow I once again find myself drowning, striving to keep my head above water. Let me explain. At the end of Parashat Yitro, there's a short, challenging passage. After the revelation in Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments, and a brief discussion between Moshe and the people regarding their ability to be in direct contact with Hashem, Moshe approaches the fog where Hashem is. In the scene between the moment of ascending the mountain and the next Parashah, Parashat Mishpatim, Hashem sends one last message. So shall you say to Bnei Yisrael, you have seen that from heaven I have talked with you. You shall not make gods of silver or gods of gold for yourself. An altar of earth you shall make me, and you shall slaughter on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and your cattle. In every place where I cause my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you. And if you make me an altar of stones, do not build them hewn, for you have lifted your sword over it and desecrated it. And do not go up on my altar by steps, so that your nakedness will not be exposed on it. This passage raises a tremendous number of questions, and just to give you a taste, here are some of them. When is this said? Is this a farewell statement that Moshe shouts to Bnei Yisrael waiting behind as he steps into the cloud, a kind of summary statement to the discussion held between Moshe and the people regarding the desire for an intermediary in relating to Hashem? Or perhaps these are the first things Hashem tells Moshe to say to the people when he returns from the mountain, a kind of introduction to Parashat Mishpatim in anticipation to the covenant held at the end of next week's Parashah. Is this a single segment? You have seen me speak to you from heaven, therefore you are forbidden to make idols of gold and silver. Rather, you must prepare an earthen altar to sacrifice offerings, and thus I will come to you and bless you wherever you are, etc. Or are these separate units? And if it's a single segment, then what's its title? And what's its main message? If these are separate units, why are they brought side by side? Who is it who's being addressed in these verses? If you don't like this question because you think the answer, so shall you tell the children of Israel, is in the text itself, why then are the first two verses plural and the last three verses singular? So as I said, we have a lot of questions, so what's my problem? First, I need to choose what to speak about, or more importantly, what not to speak about. And second, the commentators have taken these topics into so many directions that I'm floundering, but let's focus. For my own convenience and sanity, I have chosen to claim, as the Masorah does, that our passage is a single standalone unit and not connected to the rest of Parashat Mishpatim. Therefore, I will focus on commentators who claim the same. Rashi, based on the Midrash, turns the entire passage into instructions about the temple and tabernacle. Among the difficulties he chooses to grapple with weren't the cherubs in the tabernacle considered by other cultures gods of silver and gods of gold? Rashi turns these verses into a warning not to turn the cherubs themselves into silver, and that there should be only 2 and not 4 cherubs of gold. Weren't the altars not made of earth? The external altar was only copper covered, and it was filled with earth. What is every place that I cause my name to be mentioned? Every place that I give you permission to mention my name. And what choice do we have in building the altar anyway? And if you make a stone of altar for me, is one of 3 places where if doesn't denote permission. Rashbam explains that this passage comes to clarify why ornamentation and decoration should be avoided on sanctified objects. After all, you saw that Hashem has no image, therefore anything that the nations of the world use to represent him is problematic. Therefore, it's forbidden to use silver and gold, only earth is allowed, and if you want stones, they should not be hewn. Ibn Ezra points out that there are ornamentations in the temple and tabernacle, and we can also note that Rashbam does not smoothly connect verse 22, prohibiting ascending the altar via stairs, but that is Rashbam's more global way of looking at things. According to Rabbeinu Ovadia Sforno, the passage has a message that can be relevant out of the temple as well. We saw that Hashem spoke to us from heaven, therefore we know that in order to connect with him, there's no need for intermediaries of any kind. Therefore, there's no need for silver or gold in your altar. Rather, an earthen altar from the most common materials will suffice for Hashem to come to us and bless us wherever we may be. There's not even a need to use the stones from which we construct the altar. That would be using tools that desecrate the stone, and yet we are forbidden to scorn or belittle the altar once it's built. Our nakedness may not be exposed on it. To the Sforno's words, the Netziv adds that our passage also teaches that Hashem has no need for us to glorify Him with grand things. After all, we saw that He spoke to us from heaven. He's as glorified as it gets. Therefore, instead of serving Him with splendid vessels of gold and silver, an earthen altar will suffice. And I'd add, perhaps specifically the service with stones and earth is the point that demonstrates Hashem's unity, for we saw His heavenly greatness, which is represented by grand and prestigious things, but it's harder to see His presence in the lowly earthly realm below. May this be in loving memory of my beloved and heroic student, Amichai Shimon Ben Yishai and Batya Rubin, Hashem Yikom Dano. Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.